Well, first of all, congratulations on the exhibit. I've been researching your art for the last couple of days. It is fantastic. Some of the stuff really captivates my attention. How have you developed your art style in order to have like this unique voice in your art?
That's a great question. Well, first of all, thank you so much, number one, for taking the time to do this and also for doing a little bit of a deep dive. Now that I've been doing it over 10 years, I started off more in a street art style with a lot of stenciling, which was kind of more reminiscent to more brainwash Banksy styles. And then I think as things progressed, obviously I can paint. So I think it was also, yeah, just trying to find a voice in particular, because there's so many artists that we can idolize and look up to. If you look at the Picassos over the years, or an artist that I really like, Paskin, but there's so many others like Tracy Emin or, Jeff Koons, there's plenty of artists, but I think as I start to progress, especially with my work in documentary films, was trying to find something that was more unique to me in terms of what kind of stories I wanted to say, and probably more so what's in my head, and translate that to the canvas, which has been the most fun.
Definitely. Through your documentary style, you have a lot of social justice topics that you battle, but your art also has a voice in the social justice. How important is it for your art to have a purpose and to have a message behind it?
Yeah, I think the simplest message behind my art, and I think it's sort of transcended regardless of whether my style has changed a lot, especially as things have always progressed, has been to share love. And I think one of the centerpieces for this show, aside from obviously the installation piece that was more multimedia based, but I've always drawn characters that shoot hearts. And I kind of feel like now more than ever, it's kind of something that sort of registers for me, that I think we can do a lot more to share positive things into the world. And hopefully, as grand of a message that is, it's also like kind of a small, innocent one that's sort of built into something that's a little bit bigger.
Definitely. And you've had a couple of exhibits before pandemic, but now coming out of pandemic, you seem to have gained some steam, have some really good exhibits out there. And now you're at first Hollywood hotel exhibit. How is that building up that progress and showing your style? How has that changed over the years, and especially since the pandemic?
Well, at one point, because I think for me, my art journey really started around 2015, but around 2016, it was something where I was like, oh, I think I can put a lot more effort into this in terms of building it into a career. And then, things started to progress with the shows that I was putting on. I did some really great partnerships with like, there's the block in downtown LA where they redid the whole Macy's Center, where they did like a $80 million renovation. And I had an amazing space there. And I think because they had opened up the subway and people were really coming through and interacting with the art, that was one of the first times really where I could see like on a large number of people just coming through and enjoying. That was like one part of the process. And I think as far as when I started doing hotel projects, I had started at the Mondrian in Hollywood that also had the Sky Bar. So I think just having kind of centerpieces there within that exhibit, that was pretty successful. And that really led into the partnership with the One Hotel in West Hollywood, where I had set up a show there last year. But that was after taking off a 2-year hiatus from really showing any pieces, because I was shooting a documentary all across Canada on the Indigenous foster care system. And so I consciously kind of moved away from what I would say was probably a hot streak in the art market. A little worried if that would ever come back. But yeah, I definitely, now that I've been able to present this work, I feel pretty good about it.
Y- Getting the response you have for your art is incredible. You continue to push things forward, and you continue to get a good following. What does it mean to you when your art connects with somebody?
I think to me, as long as you can connect with people, I think I've always been somebody, obviously, in person, where I love connecting with people. And then I think through art, uh, you can have a certain meaning behind a painting. But it's really interesting how people sort of interpret it or what they feel about it. And it's like I just actually came from a friend of mine's house who has a couple of my pieces, and they're actually moving out of LA. But it's interesting to see their interaction of what they've lived within those particular pieces and what they mean to them. So I think, yeah, once we create something, it takes on a life of its own. So from that regard, I do really like it. And then I think the more I progress in, my career, it's not necessarily always to hit a hard hitting, message like, artists like Ai Weiwei might do or stuff like that. Because sometimes it's nice to play around and just entertain people for a better shape of it. But I think is continuing to build those storytelling tools.
And like an exhibit at the one in West Hollywood, what is it like to be out there with the crowd and see and having them experience your art and also talk to you and try and have that conversation about the meaning behind your work?
Yeah, well, I think on the opening night, which was September 5th, we had a little over 500 people that came through the doors, which was really nice to watch and interact with friends and whatnot. But then it's a little hard to have those one-on-one conversations. But since the exhibit is going till November 5th, I'm pretty much at the hotel almost every single day. I mean, officially the gallery is open Thursdays through Saturdays from 6 p.m. to 9 p.m. But I'm pretty much there doing private tours from morning till night, given who kind of comes through and then the doors are open. So in that regard, watching people, and then there's a lot of people when they don't make bookings and just stumble upon the space in the hotel because it's very different from everything else that's in there. Kind of provides me a little fly on the wall outlook of what people kind of gravitate towards without knowing that like the artist is actually kind of nearby or listening to what their comments are.
Definitely. And as an artist, you also do a lot of charity work with your art. Why is that important to you?
Um, I think the charity work has always been important to me, but I think it really started. I started really working with a lot of organizations when I had done Highway of Tears, and I mean, I always understood a little bit of what charity work was as far as contributing as an artist. I mean, obviously in person, physically doing things. I think the first ones that I ever did was the Red Cross. But with Highway of Tears, it was really so many different facets of going down and, partnering with an organization, trying to help shape different laws in Canada, and then also partnering with Human Rights Watch, where we did for several years really push for advocacy for missing and murdered Indigenous women. And I think through that kind of work, which was mainly screenings and whatnot, to a lot of organizations here in the US and abroad, where they're obviously raising funds to be able to contribute by giving paintings where people are more inclined to donate. I'd say vast sums of money, but money towards organizations that they care about and being able to receive something that's always kind of rewarding to see how those impact, whether it be cancer or kids foundations or for skateboarding or just the arts in general. So yeah, from that regard, it's nice. And for me, it's never like a one-off thing. We usually end up continuing from year to year, which is why the partnership between the One Hotel and Tree People now and myself has been a nice journey over the last 2 years or so. Is just to see that kind of an impact, and it's also not one that's like directly human rights related, but obviously we do need forests. We need to make sure that they sustain. So it's nice to see and to learn more at the same time because I get to see how other worlds sort of function.
Definitely. Tree people do a lot of work, like you said, with conservation and nature. How does that affect you, and why was this a cause that, hit home for this?
Yeah, first and foremost, I think for Tree People was a place that I always went to in Los Angeles where I would need to kind of escape from working in film in the beginning and somewhere where I can go walk the dogs and whatnot. But then the more that I started to learn about what they do in terms of all the tree planting, the conservation, and managing so many different plots of land within California and lost to the greater Los Angeles. I think that was important for me in order to sort of give back and give my time to something that I care about and also get to benefit from at the same time in terms of making sure that it sticks around.
Definitely. And when it comes to your documentaries, you seem to have a lot of passion for advocating for the indigenous people of Canada. Where does that come from?
Um, yeah, I've definitely talked about it a fair amount, but the main thing to keep it on a shorter scale is I was working at a lot of film production here in Los Angeles, doing mainly like following around rock stars and doing like sort of the polar opposite. And I had gone up to visit my my sister and her family up in northern BC, and I had found out about one missing tree planter, and that sort of inception of an idea of, oh, nobody was really doing anything to uncover a lot of these cases where I started to hear about them. That was really what kind of led me down to, first of all, go up and decide to shoot the documentary. And then once that was done, was doing as much as I could to make sure that the most amount of people saw it. And then, we did manage to screen it across the world. We got a lot of awards. And then also with on Netflix, since it was successful, it definitely helped push the government to put a fair amount of resources, I think upwards of $100 million to make sure that there would be enough prevention to hopefully stop, but also investigate now the over 4,000 missing and were murdered cases.
Definitely. Well, congratulations on your art. It is fantastic, and I really love that you're putting a message and sending positive vibes out into the world because of it. So, thank you very much for your time, and I'm very happy to get to talk to you.
Thank you. Thank you so much.